Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to March 23rd, post-rapture, post-solar eclipse, and who's ready for a steaming fresh pile of false equivalents? From your favorite Buffalo and mine, the man who is on a media tour hyping up his own crappy movie about his own crappy ascension, inexplicable ascension to prominence. Cenk, he's back. Now they are picking on a news event. I guess you can call it a news event. They have found a hardcore Christian woman, real family values type woman, who is against gay marriage. She is a Bible-thumping Jesus freak, and she's against gay marriage because of her Christian beliefs. And they are going to give this airtime. They're not going to talk about Yemen. They're not going to talk about the hundreds of people being blown up or shot to death in Tunisia or beheaded by ISIS, which new stuff comes out every day with that. No. They're going to talk about this woman giving a speech. And why in particular? What is Cenk going to harp on? So, what do you think is going to be brought up? You have a woman here talking metaphorically, symbolically. She's talking about a battle against gay marriage. This is figurative. She then goes on to talk about martyrdom and that we need to be prepared to become martyrs for this cause. Martyrdom is one of these grandiose terms that religious people like to throw around. The Christian faith is based on a single act of martyrdom. Now, this wasn't a violent act. That's what you have to understand. This was an act of a guy, quote unquote, letting the Romans kill him for our sin. It pains me to even say that out loud, how stupid it is. But Cenk heard the word martyrdom and said, wait a minute, that's a foundational idea of Islam, and now I'm hearing a Christian say it, so they must be equal. What a Christian means by martyrdom must be exactly like what Muslims mean by martyrdom. So she must be calling for people to blow themselves up, people to kill in the name of being anti-gay or being pro-family. So when she says, watch the clip first, I'm getting ahead of myself, watch the clip.
Okay, all right, now the really bad stuff.
The Supreme Court will make a decision on whether homosexual marriage will be the law of the land in April. And if they do, every single person in this room is going to be forced to make a choice. And I'm just telling you, even if you don't want to engage in this battle, you will. And your people will. And you'd better stand. I would recommend that you stop playing it safe. The Bible says if you can't keep up with men, how will you run with horses? You must prepare for martyrdom. I don't know what it's going to look like, but it's coming.
Wow, she seems like she's getting all hot and bothered over that.
Yeah, but look, that's very serious talk. I mean, if a Muslim had said we must prepare for martyrdom because they are not following the Quran in America, he would certainly be investigated, likely arrested.
Yes.
And Fox News would be going ballistic, and they'd be trying to find a tie between him and Barack Obama, right? And
Cenk, okay, there's a very clear and understandable reason for that. Because if a Muslim said, let's prepare for martyrdom, it would mean that he's preparing to die. Muslims love death more than the infidels love life. They worship and praise death. They are happy to die in the name of jihad. These are some of the most important ideas of their religion. What she was referring to was persecution. You have to understand that there's more than one connotation behind the word martyrdom. And she clearly is not literally saying die. And not just die for the cause of being anti-gay. She's not saying that. She's saying be prepared to be persecuted and to suffer. Let's look at the word martyrdom. A martyr is somebody who suffers persecution and or death for advocating, renouncing, or refusing to renounce, and or refusing to advocate a belief or cause of either a religious or secular nature. So ask yourself, when she said you have to be prepared to do battle, do you think she meant pick up a sword, pick up a gun? No, she clearly is talking about a political battle. How do we know this? Because this is a suburban middle-class woman who has zero track record of violence and is clearly not instigating violence. Now let's zoom back a little bit. As we know in the world, there are no Christian martyrdom brigades. There are no Christians blowing themselves up. There are no Christians advocating death for themselves or for anybody else. In fact, Christians love life. So the famous expression is Muslims love death and are happy to die. In fact, here, let's take a look at what the Palestinian children are studying right now in school. Okay? There's one example. You want another? How about a kid, a 13-year-old kid, planning to go and fight for ISIS? His mother is asked, what would you feel like if your child died? And here's her response.
If your son dies fighting for jihad, fighting for Islamic State, how will you feel?
كتير بكون سعيدة.
I would be so happy.
Now, you don't get that sort of thing in Christianity. You never would hear that. And if you analyze their belief system, you clearly can understand why. They follow a hippie, non-violent virgin. Muhammad was neither a hippie nor non-violent and definitely not a virgin. Okay, he was the antithesis. You couldn't get two guys to be more opposite. Jesus's whole thing about martyrdom was let somebody kill you and just, guilt trip the world for the rest of eternity. The Muslims' idea of martyrdom is kaboom. Everybody's dead, as we saw in Yemen, as we saw in the Palestinian territories, as we see in Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, everywhere. Everywhere the Muslims are. Martyrdom is a cherished belief. And it's a horrifically violent belief. But Cenk wants to falsely equate these two. First of all, understand, he is the one bringing Muslims into this because he sees yet another chance to deflect and to minimize what Muslims do around the world. He's saying, look, this woman used the word martyrdom. You must prepare for martyrdom. Now, she might have meant be prepared for criticism, be prepared to take some flack for stating a belief that is not popular and goes against the mainstream idea that being gay is okay, gay marriage is okay. Or she might have meant strap explosives to yourself and kill everybody. Not sure. Now, let's look at the facts. Muslims do this all the time, every day, by the hundreds of thousands, and Christians never do it, ever, never, ever, ever. So, yeah. Tough, really, really tough to figure out what's at play here, what this buffalo is doing.
The whole litany of things would ensue from that. We view the Christians looking forward to martyrdom as like an amusing little ha-has, but it's not that funny because, she's encouraging people to do terrible things.
Mm-hmm. What are you talking about looking forward to martyrdom? What Christians are looking forward to martyrdom? None. And what terrible things is she suggesting people do? Where did you get that? She has not said that in the slightest. This is you purely trying to fearmonger and trying to create another false equation that doesn't exist, and it's disgraceful and pathetic that you drudge it up yet again.
And we find it ridiculous, so we're generally amused by these nut jobs, right? She's saying things that are so preposterous. But you have to remember that the people listening to her don't find it preposterous. They find it reasonable. So when she says from her podium, let's prepare for martyrdom, if gay Americans get the ability to marry one another, get the same rights as we have, somebody in the audience might take it pretty seriously.
Right.
Yeah, that's a real threat. A real threat. We don't know how somebody's going to interpret that. And if some Christian starts acting out and just, going ballistic, killing people, that would be a first. That's going to be a first, Cenk. You know what we do have in the world? I'm just, side note, might want to cover this. We found a mass grave in Nigeria, Boko Haram. They basically had to get rid of the bodies, just a few of the thousands of people that they are killing regularly. We found 90 people in a grave down there. So that's mass killing going on in the name of Islam, in the name of Muhammad, right now. Not your theoretical, hopefully some Christians will do some shit so I can balance out all this hatred of Islam and save my poor grandmother in Istanbul. No, wrong. You know what else is disturbing? A group of Muslims, men, in Afghanistan, beating a 27-year-old woman to death, then setting her on fire. because they accused her of burning a Quran. You want to go check out that video? Go take a peek at that video. Here's the still shot. It is crushingly horrific. You will be disturbed watching this video. This is entirely Islam's fault, entirely indicative of the ridiculously backward nature of these people. These are evil, anti-human people doing this. All of them deserve to be punished badly, if not killed, for this crime. Do you understand that? This is a story that was not covered on the Young Turks, will not be covered on the Young Turks, and you know why. You want to dive into more PC bullshit? Look at how CNN covers this. CNN always trying to ride the fence of not taking a stance on shit under this umbrella idea that they are objective journalists. Meanwhile, it is insane politically correct bullshit. Listen to this. I almost spat out my Cheerios and peed my pants when I read this. Okay, so this horrific scene played out in Kabul on Thursday. It's already had ripple effects, including a United Nations statement on Friday condemning what it called the brutal killing and burning of a 27-year-old mentally ill woman. I mean, the fact that she's mentally ill, I don't know what relevance that has. You might as well say a 27-year-old woman who had a rash on her knee. Okay, thanks. And thanks for condemning it, United Nations. Let me slow clap you on that. You're amazing. Just shut the fuck up. That corresponds with what the woman's parents told CNN, saying their daughter suffered from mental health problems for the last 16 years. Okay? Who cares? What does that have to do with her being gang beaten and burned to death by Muslims? Nothing. It's not known whether her attackers knew this or that it would have mattered. What? The freaking what? I mean, this is as trivial and insignificant. It's like saying a 27-year-old woman was savagely beaten to death by a group of men due to the fact that they accused her of burning pages of a Quran. The woman was also a fan of Nicki Minaj and her song Anaconda. Early reports indicate that she was also a fan of Sir Mix-a-Lot and his song Baby Got Back, which was sampled for the Anaconda song. My Anaconda don't want none unless you've got buns, hun. We're not sure if the attackers knew of her preference towards Sir Mix-a-Lot and the earlier track, and we're not sure if that would have mattered in this religiously insane, inexcusable murder. No. What motivated the mob, according to witnesses, was a belief that the targeted woman had burned the Quran. CNN hasn't seen any proof that she set a copy ablaze. Oh, CNN. Oh, you pussies. Oh, you motherfucking dirty, dirty scumbags. CNN hasn't seen any proof that she set a copy ablaze. Excuse me, editor? You might want to throw in a sentence about how it's completely mentally retarded to beat or burn or kill anybody for doing anything to any book ever in the history of time, and that this is an inexcusable act of evil, the likes of which we shall never forget or never forgive, and that all of these people need to be thrown away in jail, punished, or killed. Do you understand that? Who fucking cares if she set a copy ablaze? Thank you, CNN, for your trustworthy reporting on whether or not she actually did that. Oh my God, is this outrageous. By the way, this also happened in Pakistan like a couple months ago, where a husband and wife were accused of burning a Quran or throwing it out. They were throwing it out because they were moving houses and somebody found a Quran in the stuff that, it doesn't even matter what happened. They too were beaten and burned to death by a pack of wild Muslims. The story was covered by the Young Turks and it was called mob violence. The generic mob violence. No association to Islam. Everybody involved was Muslim, and they were killing Christians. But yeah, it was mob violence. This also happened in Bangladesh this month, where a guy was accused of being critical towards Islam on a blog, and he was beaten and stabbed and killed in the street, and his wife suffered critical injuries as well. This is not a one-off occurrence. This happens all the time. And what do we get? Coverage from the mainstream media. CNN, wasting our lives talking about stupid, ignorant, immoral shit like CNN hasn't seen any proof that she set a copy ablaze. Give me a fucking break.
I mean, it's interesting because whenever you have right-wingers inciting violence in the country, it isn't taken as seriously. The Department of Homeland Security doesn't take it seriously. They dwindled down their department that deals with right-wing extremism in the country. The media doesn't take it seriously. But when you really think about it, you're right. I mean, how many people listen to that and are paranoid about the gay community coming after them?
The media and Homeland Security don't take it seriously because they shouldn't. It isn't serious. What are you talking about? Take what seriously? There is no it. You are highlighting some Michelle Bachmann-looking woman using the word martyrdom in a ridiculous speech that is trying to slur gays and take away the right for gays to marry. This is not a call to arms. This is not some violent thing. There's no track record of this. It would be an awful misuse of funds to just start investigating non-events like this. This is your hysteria, Young Turks. Your deflection techniques, your Muslim apologetics to try to stir up a beehive of activity over, oh my God, we should all be in a fury. We should all be in hysterics over the Christians, the marauding Christians and their violence. I mean, this is so clearly a distraction technique, and it's so sad and little. It's beneath you. No, it's actually not. It is you. It defines you. It's so unsurprising that it comes from you.
How many people are actually going to do something violent against the gay community? And by the way, violent things have been happening against the gay community and especially against transgendered individuals. So her talk isn't just talk. That kind of stuff is happening right now where people are being murdered because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity.
That's it, guys. You've nailed it. You put the hammer right on the nail on this one, guys. You are spot on. The biggest problem with gay people in the world is the Christians. Bullshit! There's a gay guy getting thrown off a building right now in the Muslim world. Gays in the Muslim world don't exist. That's how big of a problem it is out there. There is no San Francisco of Saudi Arabia. There is no gay politicians or gay priests. It doesn't happen in the Muslim world. They are thousands of years behind where Christians are when it comes to gays. And yet you guys will harp on the fringe part of the Christian world that is anti-gay, and even their version of anti-gay is the worst you're going to get is a God hates fags sign. Don't even begin to try to compare how Islam deals with gays and how Christianity deals with gays. It's not comparable. And if you fucking idiots try to put in the comments of this, oh, well, what about Uganda? Do not throw the red herring of Uganda out. The death penalty for gay law in Uganda did not pass. It passed temporarily and was never enacted. And it was seen as an outrage in the entire Christian world. It was seen as an outrage. This is not comparable. Oh, well, I found one guy who did some bad thing to a gay and he was a Christian. That does not compare to multiple millions, hundreds of millions of people in the Muslim world systematically depriving gay people the right to live, the right to be who they are. It is an insult to me that you would waste our time bringing up yet another false equation when it comes to gays and how they are perceived and dealt with within these two religions. It's not comparable.
And then at the end, people like this go, oh, nobody could have seen that coming. I mean, when I told them that they have to be prepared for martyrdom and take bold action against the people who are opposed to us, our people have to fight their people. I couldn't have guessed that they were actually going to fight their people. No, that's exactly what you told them to do.
It is exactly not what she told them to do. When is she talking about murder? When is she talking about violence? She doesn't say any of these things. She wants a law to ban gays from being married. You're acting like she's saying, you guys, we have pitchforks in the back, and you can buy a torch here. Johnny is providing the torches, and yeah, just light those up and let's go kill some gays. No. That's not what she said at all. You have absolutely run wild with this. Meanwhile, if you want to actually see violence, please go to barenakedislam.com, barenakedislam.com, and feast your eyes on the barbarism, on the subhuman Neanderthals in the Muslim world who are acting out violence on a daily basis. Please, if you want to actually live in reality, you might start there. Yeah, Jenk, in your fantasy world, she is talking literally. I mean, how stupid is this? Just a pathetic last-ditch effort to defend Islamic violence and be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, Muslims, I mean, we're not going to talk about what Muslims are doing, but these Christians, they're doing bad stuff. Let's highlight that. And look, they're asking people to be violent. You want to know something funny and ironic? You remember that beating I showed you? The beating and burning to death of a woman for having been accused of burning pages of a Quran or some shit? Do you know what they said about that? They interviewed a religious leader in Afghanistan, and he calmly and assertively, you know what he said? He said, if the woman did burn the Quran, and if she was a non-Muslim, then I completely support what that crowd did to her. This is dangerous language. That is a dangerous idea that is getting played out. In reality, people are dead, burned to death this week. Okay, that is where you might want to focus some of your attention. On things that actually happened, not your fear-mongering, taking people out of context, conflating what they are trying to say, taking a symbolic thing. We must battle against these people who want gay marriage. That does not mean we should kill people. That is so sad that you think that you can get away with this.
So it's just two totally different standards.
Oh yeah, it's a double standard. See, break out the violin for the Muslims, guys. The poor, depraved Muslims. These poor people who, it's a double standard because this Christian woman says martyrdom and, you know, it's not a big deal. Nobody cares. You know, she's not on the watch list. So this Muslim over here says martyrdom and everybody freaks out. Yeah, I wonder why. Completely different scenarios. Totally different. So stupid. How amateur. What fucking dumb shits. These simpletons. They're simple. They're simple-minded.
And if you think Christian fundamentalists wouldn't be as violent as Muslim fundamentalists, you must be mental. It depends on the context and the situation that they're in.
What in the fuck are you talking about, Mr. Fat, Racist, Brown, Buffalo Man? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Christian fundamentalists are as violent as Muslim fundamentalists. Let's look at the facts. Let's look at today. Go into the paper. I don't care what day you're looking at this. Okay? It's March 23rd right now. You go and look in the paper, whatever day it is, and you will see Muslim death, Muslim violence. You will not see Christian violence. Now put that in your fucking pipe and smoke it for a good hour. Think about it. Muslims kill people around the world on a daily basis. Christians don't. That is the basic fact. Is not even remotely close. It is a distant second. So distant, it's not worth mentioning. Pathetic.
Christians are generally incredibly powerful in this world at this point. Not every Christian, some dude sitting in his house in Chicago is not incredibly powerful. But in America, Christians, you know, have every single president's been a Christian, kind of. The founding fathers were, a lot of them were deists and stuff. But
listen to this point. Listen to this liberal, scummy, idiotic, loser point he's trying to make here. Listen to this. Christians are powerful. Christians are powerful in America. So therefore, they don't kill people. It's the weirdest thing. Seriously, try to stay with this Buffalo on this. Oh my God, just listen to this first.
Okay, but, and so they find themselves in a position of power, and America has the military, and Europe has the military, etc. If they were the ones that didn't have the military, and they were the ones being oppressed, and they were in the shoes of the Muslim fundamentalists, you think Christian fundamentalists wouldn't look for martyrdom? This is the tip of the iceberg. They would do the same exact thing. If you don't think so, you're enormously biased.
You're enormously fucking stupid, Jenk. What are you fucking talking about? There are Christians who aren't quote-unquote in power all around the world, and you don't see this. That's why there are no Christian Palestinian suicide bombers, and there are Christian Palestinians. That's precisely why you don't see that, is because they don't believe in martyrdom. It's not some core belief that they have, and it is for the Muslims. That's exactly why you don't see that. Nigeria, there's tons of Christians in Nigeria. Are they committing acts of violence like the Boko Haram and the Muslims in Nigeria? No. Do they seek out death? No. Doesn't happen at all. I mean, not to mention, the Muslim world is controlled by Muslims. They're in power in the Muslim world. So what is this bullshit about how you have to be some oppressed minority, and if you're the oppressed minority, then yeah, it totally is justifiable to blow yourself up. And I'm sure Christians would do the same thing. Fucking sad, you total moron. What are you talking about? Muslims are in power in Afghanistan, and they're committing acts of martyrdom. Muslims are in power in every Muslim country, you jackass. That's why they're called Muslim countries. And you see this happening in every one of those countries. That is the worst argument I've ever heard. It's so wishful. He wishes that there would be one example of Christians committing acts of martyrdom, just so he could balance this out. Because two wrongs make a right, don't you know? Because my family is Muslim and shit. If I can just keep people focused on some other group and all the shit they're doing, then, let's just turn this whole world into just one big brown bucket of shit. Okay, don't criticize me, my family, Islam, Muslims, because there's somebody else doing something bad. And I'm going to put out there that the other group doing something bad, they're doing it just as often and with just as much frequency. And so it's an equivalence. And now, because there's an equivalence, you have no right talking about one group. And if you do, in his words, you're biased. You are the problem. You talking about Islam is showing that you are racist and bigoted and Islamophobic and anti-Muslim. That is what they are trying to do. I know it's pathetic. I know it's a disgrace. But I want you to be aware of it and call it out wherever you see it. Do not let it stand.